Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome back to the stage the Kevin Pollak Trio.
Now I feel obligated to
got a bus
play some
table.
jazz.
Oh.
So that someone else can bust them later. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Kevin Pollak's Chat Show. Thank you all, or at least those of you who returned to your seats. Yes, so what a night it's already been. Let's see how much we've raised. An amazing thrill to have our next performer on. As I mentioned before, he came by the Chat Show and did a lovely sit-down with us in our space. And bless you. And
Allergies, man, killing me.
got a little on you, not for nothing. And it's incredibly great to have him back. We have a night of congratulations. It was announced on Friday that Netflix just announced there will be a season 2 of the show he created called F is for Family, and that he stars in. Please welcome Bill Burr. So congrats on that, and I foolishly said it also backstage. You said, yeah, I've known since January?
Yeah, but for some reason you can't say anything. Like they told us that, that we're picking you up, and they go, don't announce it yet, so I thought there would be like a week, and it was like 3 months. So people just kept asking me. I just kept going, well, we don't know yet, but things are looking good. Like I don't, it's like, I don't understand why it's so secretive. It's great news.
It's
not
phenomenal news.
It's not like something horrific happened. It's just like, we need to get out in front of this and try to figure out what's going on. It's like, it's good news. People want to see it, so whatever. I mean, it's not like they're not dominating the world, so maybe they know something I don't.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I've heard you in the stand-up bag talk about how astonishing it is that in a world of show business that numbers, and everyone wants to know what the numbers are from Netflix, and their response is,
Oh yeah, we don't have to give numbers, which I think is great.
It's beautiful.
No, I think it's great just watching the other networks getting pissed because they got to be like, well, this underperformed and this did that, and they got the numbers and shit, and Netflix just gets to be like, yeah, it's a fucking hit. Just that they get to do that and the other people don't, and then they get mad is just fucking hilarious to me. So I hope that they never give it up. It's funny watching, networks getting upset with other networks. It's just funny to me. I don't know why.
Yeah, I think it's beautiful, honestly and truly. And and how quickly the brilliant move of just planting the flag initially with House of Cards when Showtime and HBO were scrambling and making crazy offers, and Netflix just stepped up and said, we'll give you 2 seasons, and here's the money, let's get going. And planting that flag and then following it the way they have has just been kind of extraordinary. Then you add into, we got numbers, but we're not telling you what they are.
Yeah, I think
Go fuck yourself.
Yeah.
It's fantastic.
I like that. They're like off the grid.
How did you decide to go with them ultimately for F is for Family?
They're the only ones that bought it. They were like the last ones. We just kept going around pitching it to people.
Called F is for Family?
It wasn't even called F is for Family. It was just I was showing up and people knew me as a stand-up, so they thought I was going to do like my Mark Maron, my Louis C.K. show or whatever, and I just looked like I'm not going to do it better than those guys. And plus, I don't want to be on a one-camera shoot and just be filming this never-ending movie and you slowly just go crazy. Just like, it just doesn't, I didn't get in this business to work, So I was just like, I came in here to avoid working, right? So we just had this idea, and the idea just came about from, I was telling family stories throughout my stand-up career. When I was a young comic in my 20s, everybody laughed, and then when I became the middle-aged, older comic, the laughs started to, taper off when I would tell the stories, and I was starting getting like, started getting that, and I just realized it was like this whole new generation that came up where everything was labeled, you know what I mean? They had to wear helmets when they rode bicycles, they had play dates, this is bullying, that's emotional trauma, and like, they're just all of that shit, and it just became like, I remember standing on stage going, this is fucking funny, this is fun, this happened to me, and I think it's, I deserved it, like whatever, And I got frustrated, so I just stopped doing it. I was thinking, like, how can I get these things out? And I was walking my dog one day, and I was like, what if I just animated the stories?
I love that you pitched the idea to your dog first.
Huh? Yeah. No, and I was just going to do 5-minute vignettes on my website. And I was going to finance the whole thing, and of course, I never did it. Never did it. And then, long story, one time I had a pitch meeting with Vince Vaughn's company, Wild West, and I just sort of half-assed threw it out there, and they liked the idea. And then we got in business with the great Mike Price from The Simpsons. And then we started trying to sell it. And that's when we would it was hilarious. We went to Adult Swim, and I thought it was going to be a layup. And we showed, and like Vince came along. Like, who does that? Like, this guy's so into his company. He fucking comes along. So it's Vince, Peter Billingsley, Mike Lagnese, me. We came in like 15 deep, and we show up.
Walking in slow motion.
Yeah, and we show up, and it's like,
Ralphie
there's
has
just,
his BB gun.
Yeah, oh, nice.
there was like these, this 20-year-old kid, 25-year-old kid, and there was this little table. He had us all sitting around the thing, like 15 of us. I just remember Vince's knees being like way up like this. And we were...
The 25-year-old
we were pitching a cartoon that takes place in 1973, and I think they were just looking at us like, who are these old guys? Like, what is this about? And it just kept... It just wasn't going. And then I was finally just like, well, fuck it. I guess, you know, that's it. And then Vince was the one who said, no, let's go over to Netflix. And we went over there. And I think even they were looking at me like, why do you want to do a cartoon? But then they just kept looking at it like, oh, that's Vince Vaughn. You know? He seems to be behind this thing. So I think he was the guy who really sold it. Like, I think, like him just coming into those pitch meetings, because I think it was a little bit of a weird thing to do that.
Well, it's certainly a weird thing. You know, I imagine a lot of people who are at the top of their game in stand-up comedy, everyone's trying to figure out how to package them, and they rarely take the time, maybe until Louis recently, where they were open to what's the best way to capture whatever it is you want to do, honestly.
Right.
So the fact that you had, again, pitching to your dog first, but the realization of, oh, fuck, I can talk about this shit through animation and then make it a period piece, and also ultimately do the voice of your father.
But it was also that I didn't want to be on a set.
Absolutely.
That was one of the main things. I just didn't want to fucking sit there dressed like a cop for like 9 hours waiting to get called down there. Acting is great. When you get to do it, it's great. But that shit, you're just sitting there in costume. I want to know who the actor was that fucked it up for the rest of us. That, you know, back in the day, you know, Chaplin movies, you probably could show up 20 minutes before you were on. Somebody fucked that up so bad that now they got to bring you there like 8 hours early, get you in costume, go through the whole bullshit, and then you just sit there. I actually understand my dog now more. Because I used to always look at my dog going like, how the fuck does this thing sleep all day? How does it sleep all day? And it's just like that. It wasn't until I sat in those trailers waiting to do something, your brain just goes like, oh, we don't have to think? All right, shut it down. Shut it down. You start nodding off. And you're thinking like, I got 8 hours last night. This is ridiculous. You're just like in a deep fucking sleep. So now whenever I look at my dog, it's like I totally get it. It's like it's just sitting there waiting to go outside or eat. And other than that, it's got nothing to do, so it just shuts it down.
What if you found out that your dog was an award-winning actor in a previous life? Would that fuck it up just a little bit?
Yeah.
So all right. So in then getting a yes, you know, a lot of times comedians or any performing artist has a tough time with a yes, because then it immediately becomes, I got to work now. So you got to break these stories.
Exactly what it was.
Yeah.
And I thought I was just going to show up, you know, oh, it's animation, you know, show up my sweatpants, a baseball hat on, you know?
Yeah.
Say fucking yabba dabba doo, and I'm out, right?
Not even yabba dabba doo, but yabba dabba doo.
But it wasn't, no, it isn't that. It's like, you know, it takes like 18 weeks for us to write these things. But I actually really enjoyed sitting there. It took me a minute to get into like being in a writer's room, and now I love it, you know?
Yeah.
But at first I was being, you know.
What is it that you love in specifics, if you could pick
I just like writing dialogue, and I like trying to make it real. I like making it the way it happened, and I really avoid going for a joke.
Right.
Like, oh, but this is a joke. It's more like, well, a kid doesn't talk like that, and you know, this did happen to me, and I just remember like to me, so much of the really funny stuff in life is if it was happening to you, If it was happening to you, it wouldn't be funny. But if you were watching it
Happened to somebody else.
and you didn't give a shit about him, it's like hilarious. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, within reason. You know what I mean? But like,
Yeah, falling downstairs sucks, but seeing someone. Yeah.
No, that's one. If it's somebody you know, it's even funnier. But I remember just learning that when I was coming out of the comic strip. I think I talked to you about this one time. Like I was coming up, what's the comic strip? That's 82nd and 2nd, right? I was coming up 2nd Avenue. I had a great set, and I'd just gone to New York. I was finally getting in the mix. I was getting the spots, and it's just like, there's an excitement to that's to this day still kills me that I can go to New York and do a spot on a weekend. And so I was coming up the street flying high, and all of a sudden I walked by this bar, and the door bursted open, and 2 guys came out squaring off to fight, and neither one of them wanted to fight, right? And all their friends, so they're just waiting for the other one to flinch. So they were trying to look tough, but they were terrified. And that dual thing and the heightened thing of like, oh my God, am I gonna lose all my teeth, was all in their face. And I was fucking crying, laughing, because I didn't give a shit what happened. I didn't want to see anybody get hurt, but it's not my friend. So just watching the terror of that and then relating to it, being like, that's how I would feel. Like, I wouldn't want to, like, never ends well. So so people, if they've seen the show, that's why we have, like those moments, like, where, Kevin goes and he helps his little brother. And then his little brother says, thank you. And then he just punches him in the stomach and he collapses and cries. And he just walks away. And it was just like, yeah, like that shit used to happen to me. I remember one time me and a friend of mine were climbing up a tree, just innocently having a good time climbing a tree, and these big kids came along. They saw us up there, and they just started throwing rocks at us for no fucking reason. We were just up there, crying, hanging up there. They kept hitting our ankles and shit, and they just did it until they were tired, and then they left. And I remember we sort of shook it off and then just continued climbing the tree. Do you know how many of those stories I have? One time my mother bought me this fucking outfit, right? She bought me this.
How long did it take you to shake it off before you climb more up the tree?
The funny thing is I don't really remember anything after that other than just climbing the tree. It was just like, that's just what happened. And so one time my mother, for my birthday or something, she bought, Westerns were still big, back then. So she bought me like a little cowboy outfit. I had like a hat.
Yeah, you did.
I had a hat, and I had like holster, and then like the 6-shooters. And I had like the mother of pearl, but it's really like plastic.
Yeah.
So they had a little bandana. She got me all dressed up and just sent me outside, right? No security, no nothing, right? So I don't even think I made it to the end of my driveway. Those same fucking kids were walking by. And I was just standing there dressed like a little cowboy. And the kid just walked up, took the gun out, and just fucking smashed it on the tar. And they all laughed and walked away. And then I just picked up the pieces of the gun and I walked in the house. This is like 5 minutes after she sent me out. And she's like, Jesus Christ, what happened? And I go, big kids did this. And she just sat me down and she made me a sandwich. And that was it. There was no like follow-up, we gotta find these kids. There wasn't like this beginning, middle, and end, and a resolution, and then he learned something about himself. It was like, no, that was fucking traumatic. Dude, I remember the guys who used to collect the garbage. They were these fucking lunatics, and if you were anywhere near them, they would pretend that they were going to throw you in the truck, and they would pick you up. We're going to do it! We're going to do it! Ah! Ah! And you'd be screaming, just screaming in terror. They'd have the fucking thing on, and then they'd laugh, And they fucking did it like every week, but the garbage truck was so fascinating. There was no video games. It was just cool to look at, so you'd always...
wondering what brought you back to the fucking truck every time.
There was always there'd be a herd of little kids, and you learned to be in the middle. You didn't want to be, it was like Discovery Channel. You didn't want to be the fucking weak one. That zebra that gets eaten by the fucking crocodile. So it was stuff like that. So forever, during my career, that's what I've been pitching. I've been pitching. I could never get it on air. I could never get it on the air for whatever reasons. I mean, maybe I wasn't good enough or whatever, but I just couldn't get shit. Like, it was always like, oh, that's misogynistic. Oh, what is it? You're promoting this with children, you're doing that and everything. And it just...
Make it a cartoon.
Yeah.
You can throw a kid in a garbage truck in a cartoon, absolutely.
Exactly. Now I feel like I'm insulated because on two levels, because now it takes place in the early 70s and it's animated. So I can just, if anybody gets offended, I'll be like, well, this is how animated people talked in the early 70s.
All right. I watched the show and was just laughing into tears and couldn't get to the next episode fast enough. Just loved it. But now it's been a little while, and I've forgotten the character's name, but I need to know what the inspiration was for that little kid walking around in that fucking loaded diaper.
Oh, yeah.
What is happening there?
There was always those...
Describe the character for the people.
All right, so there's two... I think they're Ben and Ken. I don't even fucking know their names. They're just, they always had like those kids in your neighborhood where
the dirty neighbor kids.
Yeah, their parents were like never home. The lights weren't on. You didn't know what they did. You didn't know.
If you ever went to the house, it smelled so weird.
You never got in it. Like it was just these fucking kids, and like your parents would tell you not to hang out with them. They were like the first ones that tried drugs. They, had slingshots and all that type of shit. So we got two of those, and one of them's a little bit older, and the other one's younger, and he's. He just sort of walks around with like a T-shirt and a diaper.
A loaded diaper, clearly. It's hanging.
Well, that was actually a little inspiration of my youngest brother, where there were days like in the summer, there was like 5 of us, and my mother was working nights, so she would just like send us outside, and there were days that he would just play outside, and he had a T-shirt on, and just had his diaper on. And we would race Tonka trucks.
Sure.
Down the driveway to like the busiest street in the neighborhood. You just ride on the back of them, and
Yeah.
But you see how like quiet that got the second I went to a real kid. All of a sudden it's just like, well, that's terrible parenting, and I hope he was all right. They need to call some fucking group.
They're always calling some fucking group. Clearly.
Yeah.
All right, so now are you upset again that you have to write a season 2?
No, I'm loving it. I'm actually, last year I was in the writer's room and I just was punching up all the stuff that, Emily Towers, Dave Richardson, Tom Giannis, we had a killer staff, and, those guys all wrote the first season, so I was just,
Would you give them these stories from your life?
Yeah, but everybody has stories. Everybody, it was kind of like how we put together the writer's room, where people just kind of came in. And we would just like, did your brother ever just beat you up for no reason? You just sort of feed them. And if they had a bunch of those stories,
right,
we'd be like, all right, let's sit down more with this person. But if they were like, no, my parents are great, my brother get along great.
Get the fuck out.
Yeah, not in a bad way. It's just like you're not going to be able.
Not this show.
Right.
So when it comes to casting, your choice, whose choice for you to play voice the part of your father? It just made the most sense.
That was always going to be me.
Okay. So then you cast Sam Rockwell as the neighbor. You got to describe this character. This is fucking loaded and fantastic. And
okay, it's Vic Reynolds is his name. So basically, his whole deal is the guy that I play. He's a guy that he met the woman he was supposed to be with, but like he knocked her up. So everything kind of got fast forward, and he had a kid, and he wanted to be a pilot. He wanted to do all this stuff, and because he had his kid, it just derailed everything. So now he works down at the airport, in like baggage handling. Yeah. So he gets to see his dream literally taking off every day. As he deals, he's like so close. It would have been better if he just worked in a hardware store or something. But so he got married young and all that type of shit, and like he's still just trying to gain his footing. He's still figuring out who he is and all that stuff. And the guy across the street, Vic Reynolds, is just one of these guys who just like, he's
got it all.
He's got it all.
Got the Corvette.
He's got the Corvette. He's got a motorcycle. He's got all these hot chicks. He's a good-looking guy.
He's blonde. He's always got a shirt off for no reason.
Yeah, he's got a shirt off for no reason. But the thing about him is he's a good person. So Frank resents him, but Vic's got nothing but love for him. So Frank's sort of fighting like this one-sided war with him. And he always tries to get under his skin, but Vic either is too zen-like or even maybe not even too smart to even get that Frank is all over him. So that's another thing. It's sort of like at work, he sees his dream taken off, and then when he looks out his bay window, he sees this guy across the street and sees what his life possibly could have been.
Yeah.
If
And
he
Sam
didn't-
Rockwell,
yeah.
what a choice to play that part. Jesus
Oh, yeah.
Christ.
Yeah, he's
How
hilarious.
did that happen?
Vince
Yeah.
knew him. Vince, Peter, Billingsley, they all knew him, and they were like, yeah, we're going to get him to, he'll do it. We'll talk him into doing it. You know, he's always doing Broadway or some big movie or something, so somehow they got him, and I think that's when we started getting some names, you know, because he signed on, so.
Right, and some of the other people involved.
Laura Dern plays Susan,
mom,
my wife,
yeah.
Justin Long.
Plays the radical kid who just, who's that? Is that character one of your brothers, or
It's,
amalgamation?
No, yeah, I did like an amalgamation. I wanted my family to be able to sit down and watch this thing and not feel like, oh my God, like mortified. Like, and so it's all, like they'll recognize
Moments.
like catchphrases like that. I'll put you through the fucking wall. That my dad used to say that. Like he would say that. I'll put you through that fucking wall. And
by
one
the way,
one time he did say that outside, and we sort of snickered. Like so, we were standing out in the fucking yard. Like it's like, yeah, Dad, there's no wall. There's no wall. I don't know what shit. So
The beauty of a phrase like that from a father is the vehemency with which it's delivered. He's so fucking dialed in and serious when he says it.
Yeah.
No self-awareness. How ridiculous it might sound to everyone else. Right?
Oh, yeah, and we were terrified of him. And it wasn't until later that I really looked back at my childhood. I was like, that guy never even came close to being physical or anything like that. My mother, on the other hand, would just hit you with any blunt object. She'd get her. She was a way more slow burn, but then once she fucking snapped, that was it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
There's something
salad
about the woman-
spoons, hair brushes. My dad had a paddle from his fraternity. She used to we used to hide that thing. She used to line us up. And you'd just be sitting there waiting, you know. Oh, she'd get tired. She'd miss your ass, hit the back of your legs. It's the fucking worst. But I have to admit, like when I look back, I can't really ever remember a time I didn't deserve it. Like it was always like I totally deserve it. Except one time, my brother said that I kicked my other brother in the face. I didn't. I kicked him in the stomach, which was way less. And that was when my mother was brushing her hair.
still fucking
and
kicked
she
him.
came. She went to slam, and I just got my head out of the way. Hit me right in the middle of the back, and the brush just succeeded. Right? The fucking brush explodes.
Yeah.
And I just remember, like, she was like for the rest, like, I think until I moved out, she's still so frugal. She just, like, held the brush thing in her hand, like using it like that. You know when black guys try to get waves, you know that brush that they use? That's what she looked like. She was just... I was like, Mom, just throw it out. She goes, there's nothing wrong with it. There's nothing wrong with it. Yeah, that was her thing. There's nothing wrong with it.
That was her catchphrase? There's
Yeah,
nothing wrong with it?
wrong with it. Yeah. Eat this before I throw it out. She was one of those people. Mom, it's been in there 3 weeks. There's nothing wrong with it.
That's you. That's you over here, raised in a house of what, mold and asbestos? Is that
That's
the-
I grew up in a house of mold and asbestos. What do you
Yeah. Nothing goes to waste.
Right.
Yeah.
No, but you see that this fucking thing. Like, I used to tell those jokes about getting hit and all that stuff. I mean, I had to close with it. In the early 90s, I had to close with it. Now, whenever I tell those stories,
the hush
I'm
falls
literally sitting here fine.
over. Yeah.
I prefaced it with I deserved it, and it was still like, oh,
Yeah. Yeah.
kicked my brother in the stomach. I mean, don't you guys like those instant justice YouTube videos? You ever seen those things?
Yeah.
Karma, whatever the fuck they call them.
Tell me, we talked a little bit backstage about, I started in stand-up, and when A Few Good Men came out, however people discover you is how they know you, and that film turned into this big success and shit on 15 years of stand-up, 2 HBO specials. That's how people were going to know me, and then I started working a lot as a character actor. And then I would go do stand-up to this day, and people are like, oh, the guy from the movie. Oh, he does stand-up?
Oh, so they thought you did movies and then you're trying to cash in doing stand-up.
Exactly. Yeah, and there's nothing worse, right? It's like someone steals
They call
your
him
joke.
the comedy club. Is he going to be wearing the Navy outfit when he does? I'm not going unless he's wearing that.
Nobody likes the whites. Yeah, so...
Those nurse shoes.
So consequently, I would be famous enough for people to want me to be in their movies, but to go out and play big theaters, I mean, I've done theaters, but mostly it's clubs, which I of course, love doing, anywhere they'll have me. So the idea of rising through working it out as a stand-up and not only getting better at what you do, but having an audience build and build and build, and there's breaking moments along the way that you could point to. Here's that set where I did, and I said the thing and defended, who was it at the great show that the fucking audience yelled and screamed at or heckled or somebody, and you went on stage.
Philly.
In Philly.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's these moments in time where you could maybe trace, but along the way you're putting in the work and you're obviously evolving as a performer. And now, as I said at the outset, arguably whatever, you're playing the world. So I need to know a couple things about that, honestly, from a place of genuine curiosity and amazement. What that, like you talk about going to New York and being able to get a set on a weekend. That feeling will never go away because those are one of the most hard-earned.
It seemed impossible.
Exactly.
I remember going to the comic strip and seeing, Greg Fitzsimmons was helping me out. And he said, yeah, just tag along and blah, 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 blah. So I was tagging along with him on the weekend. And I just remember, no, on a weekday, I should say. It was like a Tuesday or something.
Right.
And I remember him going, yeah, come down to the comic strip. I got a 9:40 spot. And I remember, that little area up to the side? I went up and I sat and I watched him. It was like, probably like 30 people during the week. And I just remember looking at him on stage going like, he has a 9:40 spot at the comic strip on Tuesday. And I just thought that was the coolest thing ever. Like, Lucian, rest his soul, he knew who he was. He called in, left the veils, and he got spots. I mean, it just seemed like...
unattainable.
Yes.
Whereas
I knew I was going to get there, but it just seemed like what major boulder is going to move out of the way that I can somehow be that guy with a 9:40 spot on like a Tuesday.
Yeah, it does seem absolutely unattainable early on, whereas you're not fantasizing what's it going to be like to play the Sydney Opera House. But now you are performing where I don't... English isn't the first language by a stretch. What are some of the places around the world now that you've been to in the last year?
I've been everywhere from like Helsinki, Finland to Mumbai, India. It was, yeah.
And so an idiot thinks, so all the tourists that are in town in Mumbai,
You know what's funny? It's the joke I forgot to do when I wanted, because they're all fucking telemarketers, half of them over there talking to us. And it's the joke I forgot to do because it was the last stop on the tour. I wanted to say, I was going to open with that. Like, I probably talked to half of you fuckers already. By the way, I know your name isn't Cliff. But I got to tell you, man, that I had so much fun in India.
How? Describe, please.
Because they're fucking hilarious people. They're ball breakers, and they're just like, I called this podcast, and stand-up is new over there. Like, they're in like their Lenny Bruce years. Like, people get in trouble and shit. So I called in this podcast. I was like in Australia, and I called this podcast to hype the show, and the guys were all comedians, and they were going like, yeah, when you come here, you should talk about this. You should talk about politics. And maybe. And they just kept going down that road. Then I'm like, wait a minute, do you guys talk about this shit? And they start laughing. And I go, you guys are going to get me fucking arrested. And they died laughing like they were just setting me up. Like, it's not like you would literally get arrested, but it's like you could get in trouble. Or like, you'd have to basically, like, Singapore I was worried about because I was like, that kid got caned all those years ago. And I was sitting there worrying about that. And they don't want you to talk about religion. They don't want you to talk about all this shit. But like, if you just come there,
right, and
you just do your spot and then leave, that's not going to happen. But if you set up shop there and every week, they'd have to be getting complaint after complaint after complaint after complaint. And then finally, it's like a jerk-off job. Some guy finally comes down there. It's like, hey, can you knock it off? Can you just stop it so we don't have to beat the shit out of you? And you're like, all right. So it's not as bad. But
so you'll go to Singapore or where have you.
Yeah.
And you'll do the exact same.
Why wouldn't you?
Act?
Just to see it.
Well, sure, that part I get.
Right.
It's the doing your act on stage.
No, you do I learned you do it the exact same way because I remember even just going to England, I got in my head and I was going to do something on squirrels. And I was thinking like, wait, do they have squirrels here? Did I see any squirrels or any of that shit? For the record, they have smaller ones, little red ones. They don't have the big...
For the record.
The big gray ones that we have. And it made me on my heels, and I didn't have, because I was questioning what I was doing. So it took like, when I was in Norway, I went to Oslo, Norway, and that was the time the crowd was drunk a little bit, which I always liked. And I was like, all right, I'm just gonna just do my shit. And I just did it, and then I learned that was the formula. You just go out and pretend you're here, and you just plow forward until something doesn't work, and then you make fun of yourself for thinking that, I thought you guys had squirrels, and then you just go right back to it. I use all the slang.
That's crazy.
I'll talk about Tom Brady. Like, I don't give a shit. It's just like, I just fucking...
So every country you go to, that's the act. That's the deal.
Yeah,
That's
you
the
just
deal.
keep it pretty much the same. I mean, there's, if something strikes me, if I go to those places, like, I'll talk about it. But yeah, essentially.
And that crossing that line of, all right, you're going to do giant theaters. I mean, you're not doing arenas, thankfully. Please don't. It's just not the art form for it, Don't you think?
Yeah, it's not my. I've done one.
Right. And what was the takeaway from that?
It was unbelievable.
Did you ever do Gator Ground for 90,000 people?
I never did that,
Yeah,
thank
see-
God. But no, I did. I did Madison Square Garden for the New York Comedy Festival, and what was cool is I played drums as a hobby. So during the day, I mean, you rent it out for the day. So I rented a drum kit and some amps and shit. Me and my friends. I got to show you the video of that. We just, in an empty Madison Square Garden, as they were setting up chairs for playing like Iron Man, Welcome to the Jungle, and we had the best fucking time. And what was great though was it took the edge off of being there, because we
Sure.
already were on the stage, we were playing, turned it into like a clubhouse vibe. And fortunately, the two guys that opened, Verzi and Joe DeRosa. Joe DeRosa wore this fucking Golden Girls sweater on stage, and I was like willing people to heckle him, and nobody said anything. And it just so annoyed me that I went on stage
And did 17 minutes about the sweater?
shitting on his sweater. And I just forgot where I was at. It was just one of those things. After that, it just fucking took off. And yeah, it was, yeah.
But that's Madison Square
It was
Garden, I
unbelievable.
mean, yeah.
Yeah, and other than that, yeah, I don't want to go play with like the fucking, I don't know,
Yeah.
the Winnipeg Jets play. I don't want to fucking be standing in there. Yeah, I would rather do,
Because
this-
Steve Martin talked about when he was the first stand-up really to do arenas, and he said it got to the point pretty quickly on when I realized I'll put the worst material up front because they're not even listening to what I'm saying. They're just going ape shit for anything stupid that I'm doing.
Right.
I mean, that was an act that was more of a cartoon at times, of course, with physical comedy.
Plus, he had a different kind of thing. That guy had like a massive like pop culture moment.
Yes.
I don't have that. I had a 24-year slow like.
But they laugh. It's not self-deprecating. It's true, and it's actually the perfect climb, quite frankly, because you're earning it every step of the way. And this can only lead one place, and it
Please
ain't
don't make
good.
that gesture.
Well, dude, I'm gonna.
No.
This doesn't work for you, Sam Levine?
No, put that down. Put it down.
What if I just did the rest of the interview like that?
Yeah, just do that. Yeah.
Yeah, this
Well, my
slow-
shit all leads to that. It all leads to that. That's why I want to start buying like rental properties, because I'd like to gracefully get out of this fucking business. rather than being that old guy in a tux at some fucking casino.
Yeah.
If you're happy and you know it. Doing that fucking gig. I'm not saying I'll ever quit doing stand-up, but I would like to have the option to not do it.
There's a part of you that would rather be...
Like when I'm like 70, I don't want to be fucking...
Yeah.
He's coming to Cincinnati! 3 shows Saturday, 2 on Friday. Fuck that. I just be out there. My feet in some fucking bowl of hot water backstage.
Back at the hotel, you're in hot water up to the ankles.
No, I don't want to do
Sure, you don't want that.
that.
No. I'll let you know what it's like soon, though. So,
Bill Burr, Jeff Goldblum, Colin Hay, Sam Levine, Jamie Foxx, thank you all very, very, very much. I got a paper out in 4 hours.